Hello guys, and welcome to my build video for patch 12 for my Magicka Nightblade. Now, this build is a kind of a work on the build that I used in the previous patch, using some of the new sets to compensate for the weaknesses that the build had before. So before, the biggest problems for the build were that DKs were an issue with the wings and obviously the fire damage as a vampire. Tanks were really hard to get enough burst on, and then Magicka sorcerers camping mines weren't a problem killing wise, but you kind of have to get them down in somehow, and to do that is not an easy job because they obviously can't be CC'd whilst they're in the mines, because you have to physically get in there, and that's not an easy task to do. So we've changed it up a little bit on the sets using some of the new sets, and this really counteracts all of that stuff. So let's go straight into the set. We're using, and ignore the traits on this because it's garbage, I've had no good luck, 2-piece Infernal Guardian. This gives you max Magicka, which is great for our shield and playing a high Magicka build. It's perfect. And then when you use the damage shield ability, you have a 50% chance to lob 3 mortars over 2 seconds at the furthest enemy to deal 6.8k each. Now, this has some great advantages, some great disadvantages. It's brilliant against the mine camping Sorc. It's brilliant against tanks because it's not blockable. The issue is it's very avoidable. So if you're playing someone who's roll dunging a lot, don't worry too much about getting the set proc in until you're going to use your combo, which we'll get onto in a sec. When you use your main burst combo, that's when this set comes into its own, because you're going to have them rooted and still, and that's when you're going to get them down with the set. Apart from that, it's mostly there passively. Our other sets, on the jewellery, we are mostly using Necro, 3 Necro, and then 2 on the armour. That's just the best in slot for a Magicblade in my opinion. I can't see a Magicblade build not running this being best in slot. I think you have to run that. I like to play a more varied build, but it's just so strong. 4k Magicka, that's 400 spell damage, and all of those other Magicka for the shield size. It's brilliant. You got to run that set. Doesn't have to be gold. You can get purple jewellery pretty easy. And enchant-wise, I'm running 1 spell damage, 1 recovery, and 1 reduced cost. Now, I could actually change that up a little bit with some of the changes I've made to the build during today. You could take off the recovery and change that for a spell damage and be perfectly fine on sustain, honestly, because it's got a lot of sustain now. Other 5-piece. Now, this is a set I have a lot of criticism for in most situations, but it's perfect for this build, is the Spinner set. Now, we're only using 4 on the resto staff for the spell damage. Where we're having the 5-piece for the 4k penetration is on our burst bar and our burst bar only. You only need it there because it's for bursting down the tank with your merciless combo, as seen in my previous build, Explosed. If you don't know that combo, check out that video for sure. All we're doing is we're getting the tether in with the merciless. With this setup, we get the penetration on that damage, and it's great to get the heavy armor targets down. In terms of skills, we are using Crippling Grasp, Excellent Dot, a root for the Infernal Guardian proc as well, which is great because we can root them as soon as we see our proc coming. And that's when we use Damper Magic or Healing Wall. We use Damper Magic over Harness because, to be honest, Sustain is perfectly fine. You don't need Harness, and there's so many people these days that have so much burst damage. It's better to have a bigger shield size, in my opinion, for the Nightblade, because you do only have 1 shield like the Sorc. We're then using Swallow Soul. That's just our spammable DPS. The tooltip isn't that high, unbuffed. We use the potion for our buff, though you can obviously use another skill that's on our other bar in a sec. But it's a really nice skill. It's great. It's cheap. It's a lot of spammable DPS. It does heal you, etc., etc. It's a really strong skill. Healing Ward, our main heal, main damage shield, and then Shadow Image to proc our Necropotent set. That's what procs as a pet. As well as putting Minor Maim, a small dot. It gives you mobility. It's such a good skill. Now, this skill here is interchangeable based on what you want. You can either run Meteor here, but it's not a skill I use that often. For burst DPS against a target that doesn't CC break too fast if you can't get them down with a tether combo. Or you can put Barrier here to proc the passive that is seen just by here. So Barrier, that procs Magicka Aid, which increases your magic recovery by 10% on this bar. So that's another good ulti to go there. On the other bar, we're running Entropy. Now, this is actually mostly here as another dot in Honesty. It's a good heal over time, and it's a decent damage. But it also gives you Major Sorcery if you want to run a different pot, like Magicka, Immovability, and Detection. My personal favorite, this one here. That's a brilliant pot. In terms of flowers to use this, I get asked that all the time. Let me find this. I got a piece of paper with it on because I don't know this shit. Which piece of paper has it? That's the question. Maybe I don't have it. Whatever. I'm sure someone in the chat will know it. Someone in the chat will hook you up with what potion to make that, but I can't remember what it was, honestly. The rest of our skills. So Merciless, that's our main burst DPS. It's 18k. It's 20k tooltip once it's properly buffed. It hits like a truck. It's a super, super good burst build, and it's so good on the jewel bar. Amazing damage. It gives you Major Berserk, Minor Berserk, sorry, for the extra damage, etc. It's so good. Siphoning attacks is for your extra sustain and for your stamina sustain. It's really important you keep this up because we're running low stamina on this build. That's got to be up at all times. Otherwise, you're going to run out of stamina and you're going to die because of that. Mage Light is just there passively to increase our Magicka. If we do get in a 1vx situation and we can proc it before we use our tether, it's a great way to root them down, but it is good for it. Finally, we're using Fear. That's a CC. It's another way of getting minor maim if we can't get the image up. Though you should get the image up. It's mostly there as a CC. If you wanted to run a different CC there, you could, but I can't really think of any that are any good, honestly. And finally, Tether as our ulti. Now, this is our main part of our burst. So our burst comes from getting all of our dots up, getting any damage shields down, and then dropping the Tether into the Merciless whilst the Infernal Guardian is proc. So we wait till we get that proc on the Tether, on the Infernal Guardian by casting that shield. We move in, we instantly Tether, and we Merciless them while they're down, and that's a kill. Not many targets can survive that. Even heavy armor, because of the spin, and normally gets one shot with that. Sometimes it can take a few shots, but normally you get them. Okay, so potions I've already gone over, but the food, this is the new one from the Halloween event, and this goes so great with the build. Max Magicka, max health, and magical recovery. That is just so damn strong. It's really good potion, really good drink for a Magicka build. It doesn't give you quite as much Magicka and health as the actual recipe says. I haven't really worked out how that phrase saying the effects are scaled on your level actually works, but it's really good. It really is a good potion, a drink, sorry. And I would really try running this on this build. It's good. If you do find you have stamina problems, you can go with this one. It's just going to be tighter on your Magicka management. It's still fine. It's the same recovery as it was last patch. But running this just makes Magicka management out of this league. It's not a problem. Even if you get poison, you're not going to run out. So that's really great, especially against the poison meta these days. In terms of our stats unbuffed. Look low on the spell damage, but you've got to remember how much max Magicka we have. So we're 1.9k unbuffed spell damage. Fully buffed, we're getting like 2.6 or something like that. That does seem low, but you've got to remember your damage also scales on your max Magicka. We're getting over 55k. I think it's 57k fully buffed on that, which is an insane amount of Magicka. Really great for the build. Health gets to about 21k. That's fine because we're keeping a damage hit up, and stamina is 10k. That's irrelevant, but look at that magical recovery. That's insane. You could easily swap a glyph off. That spell damage glyph, that would make that spell damage far more viable. I will probably do that after this video. I just didn't get a chance to do so yet. So I would swap that recovery glyph whilst using this drink. If you want to run the normal food, then definitely stick with the recovery glyph, else you are going to lack on resources. Because 1.5, 1.6 is fine for Magicblade. You don't need it over the top, but it does help. Finally, onto the champion points. Oh, sorry, the Munus as well. Atronach, we are a vampire. Again, you could drop that, no problem at all. Don't need that anymore with this drink. That's how we counter the DKs. And we're running the Atronach for the recovery. I would keep that. It gives you so much more than Apprentice or anything. I would just swap out that glyph and change your vampire, basically. In terms of the champion points, 100 into reduction of cost. Any shield video you want, any shield build you want to reduce the shield cost as much as possible. Shields are expensive, damaging is not, so reduce the cost of your defense. 12 in tenacity, I could now swap that into recovery quite easily, but if you want to play the 1.5k, I would suggest putting some in there just to help you with the heavy attacks and make it more useful. It's a good treat to have it in, honestly. I still kind of like some points in there. It's a really nice amount of increase for the heavy attack increase of recovery. It's a handy tree, so definitely get a couple in there, even if it's just 2 or 6. 73 in recovery and 2 in tumbling. We're not going to dodge much because of that limited stamina, but if we're really forced to, it's good to get some kind of reduction in there. 2 gives you a small reduction. In terms of this tree, quite a big spread. We have Elemental Expert, 93 in there. We could put that up to 100, but it's such a small difference, and it's better to have it for Spell Pen because there's so much heavy armor. This build is about countering that heavy armor meta. Fuck the meta, let's show them how it's done. And I just swore, now I can't put this video on the forums, else I'm going to get banned again. Shit. And I swore again, I definitely can't put it on there. We're running Elf Form for the Spell Crit. So the Spell Crit, handy when you're getting that burst, because even with the Impen, we have so much damage on some of these tooltips. You can hit like 18k plus Merciless. Getting that reduction on Impen doesn't matter that much if our crit is already doing 9k extra damage. So getting an increase on that crit damage helps deal with that problem. A couple in Blessed, it's not that important. You could put a couple in here as well. That's quite good against shield stacking targets. It's a nice tree, but I haven't personally. And then 13 in dots. We have a couple of dots, but not that many. In the red tree, 34 in crit resist. Our crit resist is pretty healthy. If we do lose our damage shield, it's 2.1k. We have Impen on everything. Even though our health is low and we're keeping our shields up, it is really handy because the only time you're going to die is when your shields are down. So I still like to have points in this tree. I still like to have a good crit resist. Finally in this tree, 40 in Hardy for the reduction of the physical damage, and 18 in Elemental Defender, 13 in Fixed Game. But mostly I'm stacking into Bastion for the shield size. I think I covered everything pretty efficiently there. I can't think of anything I missed personally. Oh, the weapon enchants. Most of you running the spell damage one. You could run a poison on this bar if you want to be a twat. I'm not really about that life. Poison's kind of a joke. I really like this crushing one. Again, I'm trying to reduce the resistances of the heavy armor targets as much as possible. Another good one would be the counter to Vampire, so the one that does a lot of damage against vampires. That's another pretty good glyph, but I really like this one right now. I'm favouring it greatly. And Disease, of course, is a good one. And everything is, of course, enchanted with Magicka. No reason not to. Now that's everything covered, guys. I think that is everything. Good luck with the build. I hope you can get there. It's all now free to get. You don't have to farm this stuff. Apart from the spinner sword, they're quite expensive right now. I can see them going up in price. There's a lot of demand on pretty much every class, especially DK as well. So get them while you can. I would say, remember, if you're running one-hand shields, you don't have to go with swords. But if you are going Jord as a Magicka build, you do have to run the swords, unfortunately. So if you're going to go one-hand shield, don't worry about getting it. Get the dagger, the axe mace, save yourself some money. But to be honest, money's not that relevant anymore. Nothing is tradable. So take care, guys. Thank you for watching the build video. Good luck getting the build. Good luck playing it. If you need any advice, just ask in the chat. I will always reply in the YouTube videos. And I will see you again for the next video, probably Magicka Sorcerer. Take care, guys.